I've been thinking a lot this week about the Torah's first murder, the story of Cain and Abel. After Cain kills his brother, God calls out to him, "Where is your brother Abel?" And Abel famously answers, "I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper?" Rather than answering Cain's question, God does the very Jewish thing and answers Cain's question with another question. Me asita, what have you done? Kol dmei achicha tzoakim alai min ha'adama. Your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. From this story, we learn two simple but profound lessons. First, we are our brother and sister's shomer or shomeret, guard or keeper. We are responsible for protecting the lives of others. And second, all humanity is a single family. All murder is fratricide. The sages notice in the verse that the word for blood, dam, is in the plural form, as if to say, your brother's bloods cry out to me. They ask, why the plural? And the Midrash in Genesis Rabbah teaches that not only was Cain's blood shed, but the blood of all of his possible descendants. And so it is with every death. As an entire life disappears, a whole world gone. As the world watched George Floyd fighting to breathe, as we saw life fade from his body as he struggled and then grew still, we saw so many heartbreaking losses. The sacred spark of life extinguished, a human being lost to his family and friends, and all his potential, all that he might have become, forever lost, an entire world destroyed. It is striking that only God seems to be able to hear the cries of Abel's blood from the ground. Cain cannot or does not hear. But the Torah insists that when innocent life is taken, when the earth is violated by bloodshed, the consequences are grave. Today, our American soil is stained with the blood of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery. It cries out with the blood of Tamir Rice, Trayvon Martin, Emmett Till, and so many more whose silent screams we are called to hear. Looking out over our country today, American hero Brian Stevenson challenged us in a recent interview in The New Yorker to view the protests in the context of America's racist past. He said, "I think everything we're seeing is a symptom of a larger disease. We have never honestly addressed all the damage that was done during the 2.5 centuries that we enslaved Black people. The great evil of American slavery wasn't the involuntary servitude. It was the fiction that Black people aren't as good as white people and aren't the equals of white people and are less evolved, less human, less capable, less worthy, less deserving than white people. So for me, you can't understand these present day issues without understanding the persistent refusal to view Black people as equals. It has changed, but that history of violence where we used terror and intimidation and lynching and then Jim Crow laws and then the police created this presumption of dangerousness and guilt. The larger disease plaguing our society is a narrative of white supremacy and racial hierarchy. The question for us is the same one God poses to Cain. Me asita, what have you done? But we're also now asked a new question. What will you do? Mata asu. How will you be an ally? How will you learn more? How will you help to educate others? We're all eager to answer these questions, and I want to invite all of us as a community to embark on the journey together. Our first step is to listen to the voices of African Americans who have experienced legalized and systemic racism in this country for centuries. We need to open our eyes to the blood that has been spilled and the injustice that has polluted our land. And next comes action. It's time for us to recognize that all of us, individually and collectively, have a role to play in the work of deconstructing racial hierarchy in this country. Here at Bethel, we're starting with an act that emanates from our own Jewish tradition, symbolically sitting Shiva for George Floyd. We hope this will be an opportunity for our community to mourn, to reflect on the tragedy of his death, and internalize the message that Black Lives Matter. Only by understanding the ways that racism has permeated our culture, recognizing our own implicit bias, and committing ourselves to work for justice can we begin to change our culture's pervasive and damaging narrative? Most important, I believe, is that we learn together. This summer, we're launching a community-wide book group. We'll begin by reading Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates, a personal letter from an African-American father to his son. We'll then offer facilitated virtual discussion groups to process and reflect on what we have read. My hope is that this will just be the beginning of our communal learning. In the near future, we'll look for ways to engage in dialogue and explore what it means for our Jewish community to be an ally in the struggle for racial justice. This week in Parashat Naso, we read the Birkat Kohanim, the divine blessing the priests bestow on the Israelites. God says to Moses, "Speak to Aaron and his sons, saying, 'Thus shall you bless the people of Israel. Amor lahem,' say to them." The word amor can be written two ways in Hebrew, without a vav, or in more complete fashion, with a vav. In our verse, amor is written with a vav. Midrash Tanchuma teaches that in this verse, amor is written out fully with a vav in order to teach us that the priest should not give this blessing in a hurried fashion, b'chipazon. Ella, rather, they should offer it carefully and deliberately, b'chavana uvelevav shalem, with intentionality and a full heart. We as a society have so much work ahead of us. The terrible legacy of racism will not be healed quickly, but it begins with each of us resolving to take the first step. Let us together set an intention, a kavanah, to help create a better future for all our brothers and sisters. May we listen carefully, read thoughtfully, and reflect with open minds and full hearts. May we use our best energies to bring blessings to every citizen of this country. And may we rise up after our time of sitting Shiva, ready to do the painful and necessary work of justice. Shabbat Shalom.